And the final chapter of the Money Runs the World episode, part 3, is Project BlueBeam. So we just mapped how these 3 asset managers that quietly own the ground beneath your feet, the food on your plate, the media in your pocket, and the pills in your cabinet. But the octopus does not stop at Earth's surface because its final frontiers are towards the stars. The ultimate profit machine is to weaponize space and stage the biggest false flag in human history, a fake alien invasion. This is the last card, as Wernher von Braun once said. We're going to take a look at the claims of Milton Cooper, Serge Monast, and Wernher von Braun about the godfather of all conspiracies in Project BlueBeam, because this may be the one that turns every previous play into pocket change. I think that they may be faking an alien invasion, even though obviously aliens are real. There's both interdimensional and extraterrestrial aliens that are quite real, but there may be a false threat in order to weaponize space and to exponentially expand upon the military-industrial complex into the stars. So the military-industrial appetite. The U.S. alone spends more on defense than the next 9 countries combined. That is a retarded stat. If you just heard what I said, the United States spends more than the next 9 countries combined on defense. That is just silly. It's over $900 billion a year, roughly 13% of the GDP, and more than the next 10 nations put together. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are the top shareholders in the defense contractors that dominate the MIC. It's Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed, General Dynamics. They don't just profit from endless wars on Earth because they need the infinite war in space next. So the pattern we've traced all episode: opioids, cobalt, slavery, suppressed cures, engineered sickness, media division was always building to this, the final unlimited revenue stream. The weaponization of space via Project BlueBeam. And so these are the prophets who tried to warn us. 3 voices from different eras said the same thing pretty much. Wernher von Braun, the famous Nazi rocket scientist turned NASA architect. He was the head of NASA after Project Paperclip. He spent his final years telling his close aide, Dr. Carol Rosin, the exact playbook. He listed the manufactured enemies in order, saying first it was going to be with the Russians and the communists, next it was going to be with false terrorists, which happened with 9/11 and Al-Qaeda, then it was going to be rogue third world crazies, aka what's going on with countries like Iran and Israel right now, and then it's going to be an asteroid, and the final card is going to be extraterrestrials. His chilling line, famous Wernher von Braun wrote to Carol Rosin. He said, "And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it is a lie." This is not some low-level wacko. This is one of the most famous rocket scientists of all time, a cult scientist who was so good at the sciences that the U.S. put him in charge of NASA, even though he was a hardcore Nazi. He was literally Hitler's best scientist in charge of the Nazi rocket program. And so he predicted the Star Wars program and warned that a secretive transnational power would use a hoaxed alien threat to seize permanent control. Also worth noting, I talked about this in the free energy suppression episode, but the Star Wars program, aka the Strategic Defense Initiative under Reagan, was a black budget program of UFO technology, and that's why the GEC Marconi cluster happened, which is a US-UK joint effort, and essentially 25 to 30 scientists that were all working under GEC Marconi all died in extraordinarily mysterious circumstances, completely bizarre methods, like driving their cars off a bridge, driving their car with a rope tied around their neck, people that were caught hanging with a shotgun wound in their chest, completely bizarre methods that are clearly murders of 25 to 30 GEC Marconi scientists under the Strategic Defense Initiative, which was in all likelihood a UFO black budget program. So there's Wernher von Braun, and then there's also William Milton Cooper. He's one of the OG conspiracy heads, kind of the Alex Jones before Alex Jones, the former Navy intel officer who echoed the same warning in the 90s, claiming that there was going to be a staged alien invasion to justify global government and complete and total surveillance. But Project BlueBeam originates from the Canadian journalist Serge Monast. Also worth noting, William Milton Cooper, after correctly predicting 9/11, calling it word for word, saying that they're going to blame Osama bin Laden. He's the boogeyman they need. There's going to be planes flown into the World Trade Center. He said that in July of 2001, 2 months before 9/11 happened, and he was shot and killed in a shootout with the FBI at his home based on tax evasion charges. So, Naval Intel whistleblower Milton Cooper, who was big on JFK, UFOs, all the big conspiracies that we now know are true before that they became mainstream. He wrote Behold a Pale Horse. That's a book I need to read. It's a book so many people in the conspiracy community talk about. He died in a shootout with the FBI after successfully predicting 9/11 and after going on a media rampage about how 9/11 was an inside job. So just ask yourself why the FBI is killing people in a shootout if it was just tax evasion. But BlueBeam dates to Serge Monast in the mid-90s. The Canadian journalist laid out a 4-phase NASA and UN operation to fake the end times. Phase 1 was to engineer earthquakes and reveal fake archaeological discoveries that undermine every religion. Phase 2 was massive holographic projections in the sky, like some of the prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, or Buddha, all saying the New Age script. And then phase 3 was low-frequency waves beaming divine thoughts directly into people's minds. The Havana syndrome and what we know with remote viewing and directed energy weapons tell you that this is more than just possible. And then the last phase, the final phase, of course, is the simulated alien invasion, the grand finale that forces every nation to surrender sovereignty to a one-world government under the guise of planetary defense. And I'm not necessarily opposed to a one-world government. I believe there should eventually be a one-world government, one that uses the best technology we have, one that is based in the human principles of free energy and world peace, not the one world government that is based on the cabal's principles of total surveillance and censorship and a 1984 type of society, where Oceania is fighting between Eurasia and East Asia, and you're not supposed to know which is which and who's who. That's kind of what's been going on with the United States and Iraq and Iran and the Middle East control system. Peep my episode on the post 9/11 wars. But Serge Monast was detained by the police with no charges. So he was detained by the police with no charges. He was, I believe the record says that he was detained for homeschooling his children. And then the next day, in December 1996, at age 51, Serge Monast, the godfather of Project BlueBeam, dies of a sudden heart attack. And we know from William Colby's disclosure in the church committee, and that's why William Colby was replaced in a reverse queue by Gerald Ford, and then George H.W. Bush took his job. And I've been getting into some H.W. Bush theories recently. Look up the John Hinckley Reagan assassination. John Hinckley is essentially George H.W. Bush's little fucked up cousin. The Hinckley's and the Bushes were related. H.W. would have became president. People say Reagan was assassinated because he wanted to do UFO disclosure. Anyways, Monast dies of a sudden heart attack. As I was saying, William Colby, in the Family Jewels compendium, said that the CIA was coming up with obscure ways to kill Fidel Castro, and they came up with a heart attack dart gun. People believe that William Colby died on his lake in a canoe ride from the exact weapon that he exposed, the heart attack dart gun. CIA had things like poison pens. They did the Bob Marley assassination. If you look into that one, Bob Marley dies from William Colby's son visiting Bob Marley in Jamaica. The CIA was known to be destabilizing Jamaica at the time. Bob Marley stubs his toe in a copper wire in a pair of boots gifted to him by William Colby's son, Carl Colby, who was a CIA operative, and then he dies of cancer that spread from that same exact toe. Then you get into the John Lennon theory, but yes, the CIA killed people like Bob Marley and John Lennon. And they did so with these covert weapons. Like heart attack dart guns, like copper wires that could give you cancer, like see Jolly West, the dude that went to Jack Ruby's cell. Jack Ruby, the guy that killed Lee Harvey Oswald. Jolly West goes to him and then Jack Ruby ends up dying of a fast-acting cancer. Fast-acting cancer has also been a thing that the CIA is hypothesized to have developed. Bill Hicks, controversial comedian, also dies of the same fast-acting cancer. So, after understanding the claims of Wernher von Braun, Serge Monast, and William Milton Cooper, and realizing that those are not just three random names, these are the head of NASA, famous occult rocket scientist Wernher von Braun, and two of the godfathers of all conspiracies in William Milton Cooper and Serge Monast, who both died extremely, extremely mysterious circumstances. If you're a conspiracist and truth seeker, you are left to conclude that Serge Monast and William Milton Cooper were both taken out by the powers that be, and probably in no small part due to their proliferation of Project BlueBeam type of theories. And now, as we sit here in 2026, Serge Monast died in December 96. So as we're here 30 years after Serge Monast, it begs the question: is the modern disclosure a bait? And obviously, as someone who studies UFOs, free energy quite extensively, I am certainly of the belief that aliens are ubiquitous and there are interdimensional as well as extraterrestrial as well as possible crypto-terrestrial aliens that are all real, and that humanity has long been contacted by all types of different forms of aliens, and we're a part of a cultural melting pot in terms of species. Of course, I think aliens are real, but the real question is whether they are going to create a fabricated threat in order to weaponize space. So obviously today we have the Pentagon UFO hearings, the whistleblowers, the quote-unquote Age of Disclosure documentaries, the Age of Disclosure documentary, which was released November 2025, probably the most high-level documentary of all time, with 34 super high-level government insiders all saying that non-human intelligence is real, it always has been real, and exposes the 80-year cover-up of the U.S. government's concealment of the existence of UFOs and non-human intelligence. But there are people like Stephen Greer's warnings that part of this disclosure movement is indeed controlled opposition, and the documentary Age of Disclosure and this new era of disclosure is indeed a mass psyop in order to facilitate a Project BlueBeam type event. So overall, the same big three asset managers who own the defense contractors also own the media companies shaping the narrative. And the technology in question, which could be holographic projections, directed energy weapons, and AI-driven psyops, are no longer science fiction. They are black budget reality. Worth noting, Ben Rich, the former head of Lockheed Skunk Works, reportedly said on his deathbed that we already have the means to travel among the stars, but these technologies are locked up in black projects. Anything you can imagine, we already know how to do. If they can already do it, why show us the saucers now? Because the public has to believe that the threat is real before they accept the solution. So yeah, UFOs have been reverse engineered for quite some time, ever since Bob Lazar in 1989 that we know of. Element 115, Moscovium, could act as the fuel. So many claims of whistleblowers saying that we have engineered UFO technology. So many free energy scientists have died under mysterious circumstances. Two of the biggest names in all of conspiracy lore, Serge Monast, the creator of Project BlueBeam, was killed of a heart attack the day after being detained for no reason. He was literally detained and arrested for no reason. The reason on public record is that he homeschooled his children. He gets detained and dies of a sudden heart attack. Obviously, that is no coincidence, and it is also no coincidence that William Milton Cooper, former naval intel officer who has long warned of JFK theories and UFO theories, and it's ever since the 90s, he was taken out in 2001, right after 9/11, right after predicting 9/11, and he gets killed in a shootout with the FBI based on tax evasion charges. So this is why Project BlueBeam truly is the ultimate conspiracies. People have died because of it. And it is the ultimate Optimus play to create one world and one enemy. It's the final feeder for the military-industrial complex in order to create the false narrative and weaponize space from a fake alien invasion. It'll allow for infinite space weapons budgets, a global surveillance grid justified as planetary defense, totalitarian control sold as humanity's only hope against the invaders, and every previous crisis, pandemics, economic collapse, climate fear, cultural division was just the warm-up act for the conspiracy of all conspiracies in Project BlueBeam. Not to get confused with Project Blue Book, which was the United States government's official study of UFOs from 1947 to 69. Right after Roswell happened, we started Blue Book, and there was 701 official UFO sightings in those 22 years. But the big three, State Street, BlackRock, Vanguard, they do not need another Ukraine or Middle East war. They need a threat so big that no one questions the trillion-dollar space shields, mandatory digital IDs, or the end of national sovereignty. The fake alien invasion checks every box. And so from Sushir Baliji's suspicious death and the AI octopus, which was the modern day reincarnation of Danny Casolaro and the Promise software and the Israeli backdoor, to opioid bodies, cobalt child slaves, suppressed cancer cures, poisoned food, captured regulators, and the three asset managers which own 88% of the S&P 500. Every thread leads here. Money doesn't just run the worlds, it engineers the next world, one where the ultimate product is fear itself and the customer is every human being on Earth. We may never get proof until the sky lights up, but the pattern is now impossible to ignore. The octopus did not die in the 90s, didn't die in 1991 in West Virginia with Danny Casolaro. It just moved its headquarters to orbit. Stay awake, stay vigilant, stay skeptical, stay curious, and remember Wernher von Braun's final warning: the last card is always the alien card, and it is all a complete and total lie in order to weaponize space. That's the map from the data pipelines to the cobalt pits to the stars above. Money runs the world, and the world is being prepared for its final transaction. Again, I am of the belief that there are interdimensional as well as extraterrestrial alien forces that are controlling humanity with the benevolent consciousness of the universe fighting against the cabal and Illuminati acting on behalf of malevolent alien forces. And I believe that ultimately the benevolent conscious will win out because good always beats evil, and there's no stopping God. Pay attention to the warnings of former killed conspiracist William Milton Cooper and Serge Monast, as well as the former Nazi occult scientist Wernher von Braun. There's a reason this is the conspiracy of all conspiracies, Project BlueBeam. The age of disclosure is here. In 2026, they're finally releasing more information in the past 18 months than they have in the previous 18 years. It does feel like we are approaching some form of a tipping point of humanity. We're already in the Great Awakening. There's a massive waking up as to the sinister forces that are in control of humanity right now. I'm Matthew Tepedino, and as I've said before, I am willing to play ball in the intelligence world as a future media figure in this world. I do not wish to join the long list of martyrs that exist, like the William Milton Coopers and Serge Monast of the world. Of course, I will always be an advocate for world peace and free energy, and I hope one day that United States can become a sovereign nation, can become a true leader of democracy and a model of world peace. So that's Money Runs the World Part 3, Project BlueBeam, the final alien card.